Hello, so welcome to this Blue Beetle broadcast. I think you can hear me, I think you can see me. If you're watching this live, it is now 8 o'clock on Thursday night. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm sure you've had a busy day, and of course with the recent hot weather, sitting down to a coaching webinar at 8 o'clock at night really takes some drive. So thank you for joining me. If you're watching this at some other time, because replays are available, again, really hope that this will be of use to you and you will find some value from this webinar. So, just as we get started, you will see on your screen there a couple of things that might be slightly different from other webinars you've seen. Well, the first is the fact that I'm on your screen. My name is Graham David. I'm the founder and managing director of Blue Beetle. And here's the thing. I kind of figured, since we're doing a coaching webinar, showing you a whole bunch of slides isn't really what coaching's about, is it? See, coaching's about you and me talking, or you and your coachee talking. It's about putting some ideas across. It's about taking somebody with you on a series of ideas. So here's what I'm going to propose. As I talk you through the 4 coaching models, which is what this webinar is about, I'm going to just scribble up a couple of points and ideas here. And I will be inviting you to ask some questions or make some points as we go. So, 2 or 3 things, I guess. First is, this is not one of those sneaky webinars where I try and sell you anything. So let's tell you that right up front. I'm going to share with you the 4 key coaching models. I'm going to invite some of your questions, your comments, your observations. And then in about 45, 50 minutes, all being well, we'll be nice, done, finished, sorted for the evening. And you'd have done a bit of extra work, which always feels good, doesn't it? Now, I don't know whether you're brand new to coaching, whether you've perhaps recently studied something and you want a bit of extra help, or whether maybe you've been coaching for a long time, but you recognize the value sometimes in hearing just a different explanation, a different set of ways of reviewing what you already know. But wherever you are, I'm going to make this as practical and specific and to the point as possible. Now, the other thing just to mention, you'll sometimes see me glancing off down there or over there. And the reason is I've got a different couple of sets of monitors and I've got a clock, because I absolutely hate it when things overrun. So we won't be overrunning. Now, just before we get started, if you are watching this live, and I can see a number of you are at the moment, then you should see on one side of the screen there's the opportunity to type in a message. If you want to type in hello or hi or something right now, just to let me know that that's working, that's great. I'm going to run through 4 models. The first is going to be TGROW, or the GROW model of coaching, as it's most often known, TGROW, as it's increasingly becoming known as. I'm going to spend more time explaining TGROW than the other 3. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is that TGROW is one of the most widely used and accepted coaching tools. I think it's really powerful. I think it's incredibly simple. But I also think that there's some ways that we can use it better. So I'm going to spend most of the time with TGROW. The other reason is that some of what I explain with TGROW will work equally well with the other tools that we're going to talk through. The other ones are timeline. If you work with NLP ever, you may have come across this as timeline therapy. So we'll be looking at timeline work. We'll be looking at the clear model of coaching. Sometimes people think, why do we need an alternative to TGROW? There's there's many coaching models. So I'll be taking you through some of the key reasons why you might want to use Clear instead of TGROW. Personally, I think they're kind of similar, but you may have your own views on that. And then finally, we'll be finishing with perceptual positions, Gestalt, you may know it as, or the 3 chairs, you may also know it as. So, assuming that's all okay, and I can see that, yeah, we're running, we're all good. I'm assuming you can hear me, because otherwise you'd be typing wildly and unhappily right now. We're going to crack on because, hey, look, it's Thursday night and there's stuff to do, right? So, first one, let's start with TGROW. By the way, as I get started on this, do please, as I say, type up as we're going. I will leave a little thought moment after we've gone through TGROW, because it's the main explanation I'm going to give you. So, TGROW, I'm working on the basis that you may not know all of this. If you know some of it, great, you can join in. This is the acronym for the coaching model that you're going to use with your coachee. And this stands for T, which is the problem. What is the problem that you would like your coachee would like to get some help with? The goal, the reality. And by the way, reality is one of the key points to this. A lot of people don't really understand what reality is, what it's for, or how it can benefit. So we'll spend a little bit of time on reality. Options. And finally, the W is what will you do, having gone through the coaching. Now, here's the thing. You can learn TGROW really easily on a variety of online sites, pages, free downloads. It's all over the place. But really what TGROW is about, of course, is having that structured conversation with your coachee. I think it's also about understanding a couple of key points that many people don't always understand, certainly when they first learn about coaching. So the first one is the problem. So ideally, what we want our coachee to do is to tell us what the problem is that they would like some help with. Now, if you're managing that person, you could tell them what the problem is. That's not hideous, but it's not great practice either. Most valuable here is if we can get our coachee to identify for us the problem. Now, a couple of key things. You want, wherever possible, your coachee to give you a single sentence summary. Now, does it really have to be a single sentence? What if it's quite complicated? No, it could be a sentence and a half. It could be 2 sentences. Hey, it could be 3 if it needs to be. But the benefit of asking your coachee to define what the problem is in a single sentence is it helps clarify their thoughts. What you're asking them to do is to really think through what it is that they want some help with. So I don't know if you've ever experienced, sometimes we know that something's not quite right, we're vaguely irritated or upset or off balance by something, but we don't really think what it is that's causing us the problem. And in order to coach somebody through this, we need to be really clear about what the problem is. So what I'm trying to do to get from my coachee is just talk me through what that is. Just give me a single sentence for that. Just explain to me what it is. And I'm going to write it down. Now, sometimes, and you may have experienced this, sometimes coaches try to be helpful. So the coachee may say, oh, you know what, I come in on a Friday morning and it's a long week and I just wish I had more. As a coach, you want to go, yeah, you want more energy, right? You want more, get up and go. But of course, what you should be doing when they say to you, I want more, is to ask them how to spell it when you write it down. Because when they go, they know what they mean. And we want them to be able to tell us. And this first part's really important. Quite often, people don't really know what the problem is. Or more often, they know what the problem is, only it's not really a problem. And I said to you at the start that reality is one of the key points, and it absolutely is. So we're going to take time to establish what the problem is. And we're going to write it down. We're going to give it a single sentence summary. Now, the value of that, the real value of that is, having written it down, we can read this to them on several occasions. So when they say, when a little bit further on they're getting stuck, we can just review. The review becomes the easiest thing in the world. So if they started with that, I just want more out of Friday morning, they might have ended up by saying, well, the problem is, I'm struggling to feel motivated at work. Great. So the problem is you're struggling to feel motivated at work. Yes. Okay. What else do you want to say about the problem? Well, that's it really. I don't know. I just don't feel like I want to be at work. I'm struggling to feel motivated. Great. That's the problem. Yes. So later on, when we start to get stuck, and they are going to get stuck, it allows us to come back and say, so what you told me was you're struggling to feel motivated at work. Is that still the problem? And you'll very often find as we work through this, that turned out it's not the problem. Let's go on to goal. So what I want to know is if you don't want, in this case, to struggle to feel motivated at work, what is it you want instead? And that, by the way, is a great question to move on from the problem to goal. So if you don't want this, what do you want instead? Now, we want them to state this in the positive. So they can't say, I'm fed up with feeling fed up. I don't want to feel like that anymore. Great, what do you want instead? And that question, what do you want instead, becomes a best friend. We're going to have to ask that question several times. What do you want instead? What is it you want instead? Well, I want this. I want to spring in on a Friday morning feeling full of beans. Okay, we might ask them how they know they're going to get that. We might ask them what other people would notice about them when they had achieved that. We might start to ask what measures they would put in place to demonstrate they had got that bouncing into work full of beans. The key to this is we're going to make this clear. And again, we're going to write it down. Very importantly, we ought to ensure that it is under their own control. So let's say somebody says, you know, I struggle with confidence. I don't like making sales calls. I want people to want to talk to me. Well, that is stated positively, but it's not under their own control. So wanting people to want to talk to you is not something that you can directly set as a goal. What you might think about, however, is I want to understand how to be more compelling when I'm on the phone. I want to understand how to put my idea across in 2 minutes or less in a way that interests. I want to understand what question I can ask that will make people go, oh, that is a good question. Let me take that further. So it's got to be positive. It's got to be under your own control. Now, if you stop to think about this even for a moment, so let's say I don't feel confident when I make sales calls. I want to find some ways to be more compelling. I want to find some ways to ask great questions. So here's some fairly reasonable goals. Great. So we now need to check reality. And I'll remind you, this is the one where people tend to race on because everybody wants to get onto options. Because options feels like coaching, right? Options is when you feel like, okay, what could you do? What else could you do? That sounds great. But we need to get this point first. Because very often in reality, if they ask some great questions, some dangerous questions, some killer questions, in reality, we start to understand that actually the problem isn't what they think it is. And therefore the goal isn't quite what they want to do. So somebody says, yeah, I want this compelling way of talking, I want to be more interactive, I want some great questions. One of my first questions for reality is, so what have you tried already? Now, if you think about that question, what have you tried already? It's a massively powerful question. Because if you can identify for me what you need to do to be more compelling on the phone, which is what you've told me you want, well, why aren't you already doing it? Now, I probably won't ask why aren't you already doing it, because that's a little bit confrontational. But what have you tried already? I quite like. It sounds quite supportive, and it does assume already that they have tried something. What stops you? It's a great question. What stops you from whatever it's going to be? Let's take a different example. The problem is I feel overweight, I feel sluggish, I feel lack of energy every morning. What's my goal? I want to get fit. I want to lose half a stone. I want to be bounding out of energy. I want to eat apples and drink water every day. Fine. So, Graham, you seem to understand exactly what you need to do to be more fit. What stops you? And that's the point you'll start to recognise, if you've done this right, that maybe what they're telling you the problem, the goal isn't really the problem. And the reality is going to find out about that. What have you tried already? What stops you? What's stopping you from being more compelling on the phone call? What stops you from eating more apples? What stops you from taking some exercise? If you've just identified for me what you need to do to hit your goal, why aren't you already doing it? Now, the other thing we might want to do here is recognise that racing onto options is not the good thing to do. So if we start to ask those questions, we might start to recognise that they're starting to recognise that this isn't the problem. So this is why you've written these stages down. You said there that you don't like this. That's still the case. And you might start to notice at this stage, people go, yeah, that's still kind of a problem. All right, what changes do you want to make to this? All right, that is still a problem, kind of. Right, is this still the right goal for you? And you often find if you don't rush this on, people start saying, I'm not sure it is the right goal. Maybe I need to think this through a little bit. This can take some time to work through. The other thing to check in reality is what is the normal process in your, if this is an organisation or a work-based firm, so what's the normal process? You know, I want to, I'm really slow at making sales calls. I want to make 8 an hour. I want to be like a motor and just make these sales calls. Great. So what stops you? What have you tried already? Listen, Coachy, I'm curious, what's the normal sales process in your work? Now, if a Coachy says to you, well, most people make 12 to 15 calls an hour, then we need to explore why they're setting 8 as their target. Or if the normal process is 2 sales calls an hour, well, 8 is a phenomenal achievement, but why are you aiming for 8? There's something not quite right. So that's a really nice question to check in reality. Let's move on to options. What are your options? Now, ideally, you want at least 3. There's a couple of traps that often happen in the options. What are your options? And they will say to you, I don't know. If I knew, Mr. Clever Coach, I would be doing it, wouldn't I? I don't know. Why don't you just tell me? And the problem is the moment you say something like, well, let me give you an idea from what I've tried, or here's some experiences I've thought of, or let's just put this down, you're crashing the whole party. So the moment they say, I don't know, you've got to say something like, okay, I know, you don't know. All right? I know you don't know, but if you did, what would you say? Now, right now, I know that's ridiculous, but I can also tell you it works. This is also where you write things down. So when you first ask this question, your heart's going to be thumping. I mean, this is a ridiculous question. I can't ask it. I know you don't know, but if you did, what would you say? Typically, I would say about 55% of the time, they don't even miss a beat. So you want all these things in your sales calls. What's stopping you from doing it? Nothing. Okay, but what have you tried? You thought about it? Okay, great. So, but what are your options? I don't know. Yeah, I know you don't know, but if you did, what would you say? Good, 55, 60% of the time, they'll just go, all right, well, if I did know, and then they give you a suggestion. Sometimes they'll give you a sarcastic response. Well, I could just work 100 hours a week, couldn't I? Is that what you want me to say? Very important at this stage. You go, yeah, great. And your answer is always going to be, what else? That's it. What else? You're going to write it down. Now, if they say something stupid, sarcastic, challenging, that's fine. They're allowed to say that. Now, when you write it down, most times they'll go, oh, it's just a joke. Yeah, okay, sorry, am I writing that down or not? No, what I meant was, and they will often self-check that. I said you want at least 3 options. You want more if remotely possible, but 3 is kind of the minimum. So if they go, well, I'll work 100 hours a week, great, what else? I suppose I could go and talk to Dave, he's really good at making sales calls. Yeah, great, what else could you do? I could download a couple of books about making sales calls, read them and try some of the techniques, great. Now at that point you've got 3, what else? Now often it's idea 4, 5, 6 or even 7 that's the strongest idea. If you think about this for a reason, for a moment, you'll realise it's perfectly sound. We often know the key flip answers we're supposed to give most of the time. So it's a little bit of extra asking and extra questioning that allows people to go inside and come up with a solution. So what else, what else, what else, Greg? Some other questions you might like to help here. Who else do you know that has solved this problem? Well, Dave, remember Dave? Great, okay. What did he do that you can replicate? Who else could you talk to that would help you with this? So again, what we're looking to do with the question, I know you don't know, but if you did, what would you say? or who else do you know that has already solved this problem, is we're getting them to think not about the problem or why it's difficult, but how to solve it. And that's all that really is happening here. And it sounds very simple, it sounds like strange and a bit silly, but it absolutely works. So once you've got as many solutions out as you can, and you must not give them any of your own solutions, even if it's glaringly obvious to you what you should do, we're coming to what will you do. So what are you going to choose? And they might say a bit of a mix of 2 or 3 of things. Well, I'm going to, I've not really studied this myself. I can probably help myself a bit. I'm going to read a couple of books and I'm going to talk to Dave. Great. And at this point, what we're going to be able to do is to help support them. When are you going to do that? What's the first thing you're going to do after our conversation now? Now, people like Anthony Robbins will tell you, if you want to get things done, never leave the site of a decision without first taking action. And that's key to what we're doing here. You've told me you want to download some books, you want to talk to Dave. What's the first thing you're going to do? I'm going to talk to Dave. Great. When are you going to talk to Dave? Oh, I'm going to talk to him right now. I'm so excited. Brilliant. And a really nice thing to do at that stage, if you're the manager or you're the regular coach in this situation, is to say to that person, listen, when you've had a chance to speak to Dave, do me a favour, just drop me a quick email and tell me how you got on. I'd love to hear how well you get on. I'd love to hear what your progress is going to be. Pop by my desk, let's have a cup of coffee and see how it's going for you. Now, what I like about that is that whichever way you see this, either you're providing a bit of accountability, go and do it and then tell me how you got on, and or you're showing yourself up as quite a nice person. Listen, this sounds great. I love your first idea there. Let me know how you get on. At this stage, because you've got some content here written up, you're able to go through with them and review what happens. This was the problem, yeah. This was the goal that you've set. You've identified these things that have stopped you so far. We spoke a little bit about this. We spoke about what the norm is for your business. We came up with a range of options, and the 1 or the 2 or the 3 you've picked of these, your first thing is going to be this, this, and this, and you're going to let me know when you've done that. So that's called TGROW. Massively simple. Might not look like that if you've seen it for the first time, but I'm sure you've seen it before. Very, very powerful. And the great thing about TGROW is even when people know that's what you're doing, I still find very good results from this. People worry a little bit about this question here. I know you don't know, but if you did, what would you say? Or who else do you know to solve this? What did they do? People sometimes worry that those questions are a bit tricksy and that people will see through them. But honestly, I find if you ask them with reasonable, sensible, honest intent, they are accepted. Because all they're doing is finding a solution from a different perspective for the coachee who may be stuck with that particular problem. Now, listen, we're about halfway through this 1 hour that we have. This is TGROW. I spend slightly more time on this one because all of the other 3, of course, use some of the key principles that I've explained in here. I'm going to move on to timeline in just a moment. Before I do that, and whilst I take some water, I'm going to give you the opportunity just to review what I've written there, and any questions or comments or observations you may have, please type them into your screen right now, and I'll do my best to answer them right now. But I'm going to take literally 30 seconds, just drink some water, and I'll just check the screen whilst you check the notes. Oh. Okay, so back to work. Let's just clear this. I'm going to run through now these 3 other key coaching techniques. Now, I'm not giving them as much time for the reason I've explained, but what I am going to do is to give you some of the key uses and explanations of these tools. I don't know whether you know these already. These may be new to you. These may be other techniques you're using, or there may be things you've read about and you think, well, I kind of want to give it a go, but let me get some context on how it might work. So, by the way, if you want to type in questions as we speak, we can do. That's, of course, if you're on the live version. If you're on the pre-recorded, typing in questions isn't going to work. So, timeline. Now, you may have come across this as timeline therapy. And what I like about timeline is it works very, very well for helping people set a goal in the future. So you may use TGROW for what do you want to do, and timeline's a great way to help reinforce that, probably in a different session. It's also really good for helping to understand, either yourself or the coachee, why they believe or think or have a block with certain things from the past. So you've probably heard of the phrase, if we start to think about a self-limiting belief. Now, sometimes people think they're just not good at something, or they don't like something, or something gives them a bit of a difficulty. And often that's because of a decision that we made, consciously or otherwise, some time ago. So what I like about timeline is it gives us the scope to think about that. Now, if we imagine that our client is right now here in the present, as are we, and we have a timeline, which could be a real literal line. Now, one of the best ways to understand this is if I was to ask you right now to point to the future, okay, just point to the future right now, you might go, well, it's over there. If I were to say to you, where's the past, you might go, well, it's that way. That could be straight in front of you, it could be at an angle. That's what some of the population will say. Some of the population will say it's a line in front of me. There's my past, there's my future, and my present right now is about there. Now, it doesn't matter what they say, their answer is completely right, it's fine, it makes sense to them. But the way that this works very nicely, you might like to say, look, I've got this technique, I'm going to try it, it might really help. Depending on the relationship, depending on the person, you might just say, right, stand up, come and stand over here, this is the present, there's the future. Where's the future? It's over there, great. Where's the past? Over there, obviously in front of you. What I want you to do now is to tell me a bit about this problem now as you see it from the present. That's it. So they will talk to you a little bit about what it is that they perceive is the problem or the issue or the situation that they would like to improve. Now, depending on where they told you the past is, what you're now going to do is to ask them to possibly turn around and go back to where it is in the past that they feel this thing first became an issue. Now, they will know where that is. So if I was to say, I was talking to my coach here, well, you know, I'm thinking about, I don't like dealing with, I don't like dealing with detailed people. They just wind me up. And certain types of detailed people, I don't get on with them as well as I might. So I say, okay, fine. Where's the past? Okay, it's that way. I go, great, okay. Walk back to the point where you first noticed this become a problem for you. You walk back with them and stand here in the past and get them to describe to you what it was that happened that first caused that problem. What was it that changed at that point? What was the thing or the individual they met, or person they met? What caused the point back then that has since caused them a problem up until the present day? Now, again, this might sound a little bit weird and wonderful to you. You might be thinking, I can't do this with some of my coachees. If you can't do it with some of your coachees, that's fine. As I said to you right at the beginning, a great way to explain this is just to say, look, I've got this technique. I find it really helps some people. Are you prepared to try it with me? And most people go, yeah, okay. Probably wouldn't use it on the very first session. As I said to you, I think TGROW is very, very powerful. I think it's simple. It feels like normal coaching. But once we start getting into it, it's a technique, let's try it, see what you think, it's okay. So we've gone from the present, we've gone gone back to the past, we've started to talk about what this thing was that happened. What we might then do is to take them back to the present and say, great, so here's what I want you to think about now, coaching. I want you to think about a time in the future where this problem that we're talking about, or this positive thing that you want to work on, and you might have identified that from TGROW, remember the sales calls earlier on, this positive thing in the future, I want you to think about when that will be done, solved, put in place. And they will say, it's about then. Great, let's walk over there or point to it. Let's go there right now. Now, if we're thinking in terms of technique, this can be used dealing with a problem or an issue or situation we're going to talk about. It can also be used for something very positive. So let's go back to the other example. I want to be an amazing, confident salesperson. Great. Let's look in the future when you're an amazing, confident salesperson. Let's walk to there. Right, where are we now? Oh, we're a year in the future. Great. Tell me what's happening. Well, I'm hitting all my targets. I'm smashing the extra commission. I'm #1 salesperson week in, week out. Brilliant. So now, turn around and look back to the present. So you are physically asking them to move about. Look back to the present. I want you now to tell me all the things that have happened between present and this future you that have allowed you to get to, what do we say, hitting your targets, smashing the commission, and being the #1 sales week in, week out. And the way that NLP people call this is that we are creating a compelling future. Now, what's lovely about this is in the same way that when you have a bit of time, you might find yourself idly dreaming or daydreaming about something you're really looking forward to, we're simply codifying that and helping somebody from a present situation, here's where you are now, you've identified what you want, for example in TGROW, now we're going to use timeline to go forward to that point when you've already achieved it. And think back to all the little milestones that you might need to attack and hit and succeed at along the way from the present to the future. Now, timeline, like any other technique, will have its critics and it will have its absolute raving fans. First time I discovered this technique was about 10 years ago, and I was working with a room full of people for 2 days just on timeline. So throughout these 2 days, we had people standing up, walking around, whatever else. And I've got to tell you, from an absolutely personal perspective, I didn't enjoy being timelined. But here's the important thing. 4 or 5 of the people I worked with were talking about not just it was powerful, it was incredible, it was a strong technique, but they were talking in terms of life-changing insight. And the key areas they talked about were going back in the past to identify when a problem happened and then looking forward. And bear in mind, in some cases, this might be 5, 10, 15 years, people were realizing all of the effects that a single choice that they had made back here had had ever since. And that can be quite powerful, couldn't it? See, not just being better at sales, but if we think about our personal relationships or who we are or the way we identify ourselves, if we think back to a decision we made 10 years ago or 20 years ago and think of all the outcomes and ramifications since then, that can be quite a powerful realization, all of the things that have happened since. Equally, if we start to think about something really positive, something that we want to achieve in the future, whether personally or professionally, this is a really powerful way. And again, I'm talking people saying life-changing outcomes, not just setting a series of goals or opportunities that they want to achieve. Instead, they go forward to a time when they've already created it, and they look back and identify retrospectively all of the things they have to do to achieve. And that then becomes simply some goals or some markers that you set into place. So timeline is not for everybody, and it's not for every situation, but it's massively powerful. And if you've not already tried it, I would suggest you go on this very soft sale technique. Look, I've got this technique, works pretty well for a lot of people. Let's give it a go, see what you think. So that's timeline. I'm now going to move on to clear, because we are 35 minutes in, and I did say I love to work to time. Okay, so clear. A little bit like TGROW, this is an alternative coaching model. And some people who've discovered clear and TGROW have come to the conclusion they don't need both. Some people have decided they prefer clear. Other people think it's nice to have TGROW and clear in the toolbox. I'm going to explain it really quickly, partly because I've covered a lot of the ground with TGROW, as I said earlier, but partly also because it's actually very, very simple, really like TGROW, but it's just a different way of doing it. So these are the key points, the acronym. The first is contracting. Second is listening. Then we're into exploring. We're next into action, and then finally review. So you can see already there's quite a few similarities with that and TGROW. There are a couple of three things that make it different that may decide that it suits you more. So the first is contracting. So just as you'd expect in any coaching discussion, what we want to do is to open the discussion. We want to start to discuss how we as a coach and they as a coachee will be. We might set the rules, if you like, or the scope. Rule sounds quite serious, doesn't it? So we might start to set how it's going to be. We might agree some outcomes that we want to get out of this. So really, it's all about agreeing with that person what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we're going to be working together. Then we're going to listen to them. So obviously, actually, do you know what? I'm really upset with myself. I said obviously. Nothing's obvious, right? So we're going to actively listen. We're going to allow them to talk through what it is that they want to develop. It's their personal insight that's very, very important here. Now we're going to start to explore the various ideas they've got. So what is it that we want to do? What are the possibilities here? What are the different perspectives that we might be thinking about? Now, again, I'm running through this very quickly because in the same way that in TGROW, one of the questions I might ask is what's stopping you from doing this? In the same way as in timeline, we might go back in time to realize that at that point you decided you didn't like confident people, for example, and that made you ever since be a little bit wary of certain types of people in your organization. And we might wonder why that's a great reaction ever since. Likewise, as we start to explore here, we might use some of these questions to supportively challenge some of the beliefs that our coachee has. Now, as always, we're going to do this with huge respect and massive amounts of rapport, but this is about exploring, and ideally it's about getting our coachee to explore some of these beliefs themselves. We're then going to go into some action. And a key word here, of course, is support. We want to support our coachee in the actions they wish to take. This is really, really important that in the same way that with TGROW, we said, what's the first thing you're going to do? In timeline, we said, look back to the present. What are some of the milestones that you have to achieve in order to get to where you feel now, in the future where you've succeeded? Same thing here. What's the support I can offer you to help you go through exploring? There's a question I love as a coach, which is what support can I give you? What help do you need from me? Again, I like the question because it's genuinely a supportive question. From a management perspective, it shows you as somebody who cares, who's interested in your colleagues. And then review. We're going to review not just what they decided, but we're going to review the session itself. So we talked about these things up here, discussing the rules, the scope and the outcomes. We're going to review the session. We're going to review us as a coach. How has this worked with you? What did you find difficult working with me? What next time do you want me to do differently? What do you want me to do more of? What do you want me to do less of? And that really is as simple as clear is. I think I like it because it's slightly more open, or it feels slightly more open than TGROW. So some people like TGROW because you can plow through section by section by section. Some people prefer clear because, for example, you've got a great big section on just listening. You've got a big undefined section on exploring, working through with them. Then the action section. So for some people, this feels better. Now you will know your coachee or some of your coachees who may feel better with this more wide-ranging opportunity to talk and discuss and explore ideas. You may also know that it suits you better to have a greater variety of the kinds of things you can ask and discuss. Really, there are three key things you need to consider. The first is there's a greater scope on contracting. I don't really get that so much in TGROW. We kind of assume they want to be there. We kind of assume some rules. We kind of assume we're going to be happy with that. So some people like clear more because this is explicitly part of the model. Likewise, some people really like the clear model because of the review. So we're reviewing what's happened. We are reviewing progress, but we're also reviewing our work together. And for some people, that's a real clincher. I think there's a third reason. And the third reason is TGROW is so well known that sometimes coaches, I don't think coachees, but sometimes coaches worry that the person they're working with knows the questions and knows what's coming up. Now, I've never found that to be an issue. They certainly know the model, but like most people, if you're talking about yourself, your own problems, your own wishes, your dreams, your desires, your plans, it doesn't really matter that some of the questions are the same, because it's all about you. So that said, I think some people do like the opportunity for a slightly different model. So those, I think, would be three things: the contracting, the review, and the fact that it's a different process. So that's model number 3 of 4, and we are bang on time. So a quick glug of water whilst I leave that for you. Then we're going to come to the 3 chairs, the perceptual positions or Gestalt. Okay, so last one that we are going to be looking at right now, and then there'll be an opportunity for any questions, any comments, any observations that you may have, and I'll be very happy if you want to write, type, drop those in, either as I'm finishing this or shortly afterwards. As I say, I'm absolutely going to finish on time. I want to finish before time, so we do have the space for some questions should you wish any. So, 3 chairs. Now, this, a little bit like timeline, is different for some people. And for some people, the fact it's different is great. For some people, the fact it's different requires you to say, I've got this technique. It's a little bit different. It may help you. For some people, you just pile it and get on with it. One of the keys to this is that your coachee is going to move between 3 chairs. So ideally, we want these 3 chairs in this kind of shape. Ideally, you as the coach are not sitting down, because these are the 3 perceptual positions that you are going to help your coachee work through. Where would you use this? Well, TGROW talks about a problem, or a goal, or an opportunity. Clear, similar thing, but from a slightly different perspective, as we've explained. Timeline, past, future, compelling futures, issues, solving them. This is all about the issues, the problems, the opportunities with another person. So it's more, I guess, about relationships. And here's what we're going to do. As you start to explain this, you say to your coachee, right, I'd like to sit down there, please. Don't call them seat 1, 2, or 3. Don't reference them in the way that we are now. You just say to the person, I need to sit down here, and I want you, please, to tell me about the problem. All right? from your perspective. But you're going to say to them that over here is the other person. All right? So this is you in seat 1, and the other person right now sat in seat 2. Now, before we get into this any further, you're not asking them to role play. You're not saying to them, they're sat there invisibly, they can hear every word. You're not saying to them, talk to the chair. But they may do. They may actually turn around to the chair and start talking. They may just say him, her. They may refer to the chair. Whatever they're going to do is fine for them. But the key to this is, whilst you're sat in seat 1, I want you, please, Coach E, to tell me about the problem, the situation, the issue with person 2. And what you're doing is you are facilitating the exploration of this. So what is it that they do? What's the thing that you want to try and solve? What's the issue that you have? What is it that they do that upsets you so much? Tell me a bit about how they do this. Tell me about them. In other words, just get them to chat, to talk, to tell you all the kind of the issues, the problems they have with this relationship. Once you get to the point where you feel they've told you what you need to know, you're going to do what NLP people call is a break state. Some people call it a pattern interrupt. Now, have you ever noticed that when you really start to focus in on something, in a conversation with somebody about something negative or positive, that feeling, that state carries with you into your next interaction. So you might have a really bad phone call with somebody, you put the phone down, it still carries on a little bit. And we don't want that to happen in the next part of this activity. So as you finish, you might suddenly go, right, just stand up a minute. Before we move on, just tell me something. And you're going to ask them something completely different, totally unrelated to this. Where are you going on holiday this year? If you get this right, you should see a little moment of Portugal. Why? Sorry, that's fantastic. Portugal must be very nice this time of year. How hot does it get? You flying to Faro? Something that just completely breaks the state, interrupts the pattern, takes them to a whole new place, just for a few moments. And then you're going to go, right, I'd like you now to sit in this seat, seat number 2, and I want you now to tell me about this situation, this problem, this issue with this person from their perspective. As before, you're not going to say, look, your other self is sat down there. You're just saying, tell me a bit about this problem as you see it, whoever you are, this other person. And again, you will facilitate the conversation. What is it that they do when they come in the room? What do you mean they, tell me a bit more about they look aggressive. Oh, they roll their eyes, okay. What other things do they do? Oh, right, they talk over you when you're trying to make a good idea. Okay, tell me a bit more about this. In other words, you're getting this issue from this person's perspective. As you get to the end of that, you're going to again break the state, interrupt the pattern, and then finally you're going to sit them in position 3. And this is called the meta position. Coaching. Imagine you're sat here, you're another person, and you're watching you and this other person talking about the problem. What do you observe? What solutions have you identified? What problems can you see here? What opportunities for improvement have you identified? In other words, from a third-party perspective, look at the problem between the coachee and the other person and get the third-party perspective to tell you what they think they should do, to tell you what issues they can identify, to tell you what common ground you perhaps notice. A key to this is, again, we're not asking to act, we're not asking to imagine people there, just tell us what you see. Okay. As before, you go as far as you feel is useful, and then you'll break state. Now, beyond that, you're then going to have to really decide how this is going. So sometimes somebody will be talking, they'll say, well, I think really actually what he said, and they'll point to the chair, makes sense. Great, tell me about what it was they said that made sense. Or, I don't feel I've been really clear about something. Great, take the chair again, let's just explore that. So you might find they want to go into another chair or several other chairs. Now, as with the other techniques in TGROW, for example, where you're asking about, I know you don't know, but if you did, what would you say? What we're looking at doing is just shaking up a little bit some of those firmly held beliefs that may not be serving us as well as they used to. So we're starting to look at this from a different perspective, or in this case, a couple of different perspectives. We're starting to analyse what it is that they are saying that makes sense or not, that they will identify for themselves. One of the things you will often find is they will say here or here, I feel wound up when they walk in. Where is it you feel that? And they will say things like, I just feel it, you know, right here in my chest, or my head starts pulsing, or my hands get all tense. Okay. So we're just starting to understand and break down those little bits and pieces before we move on to the next stage. That is called perceptual positions, or it's called Gestalt, or it's called 3 chairs, which is the easy one to remember. So listen, I can see now that it is 10 to 9, so we've been talking for 50 minutes. I'm going to ask any questions, any comments, observations you may have. I'll take you through the 4 key models. That's TGROW, timeline, clear, and perceptual positions. As you think about any questions you may have, if you are watching this live, as I said, I'd invite you to type those in now, because I'm going to be ending the broadcast in the next few minutes if you have no questions. As you're thinking about that, I did say to you at the beginning that I'm going to give you the information, which I hope you feel we've done. I did say to you that I'm not going to try and sneakily say anything, which I'm absolutely not going to do. But what I am going to do is this. If this has proved useful to you, I'm going to ask you please to tell other people. I would ask you please to perhaps, if you wish, go onto Twitter and find @Blue Beetle Tweets and say something about us. I will ask you to look us up on Facebook. If you want to email us, well, you've found those details already because you've signed up for this webinar. The other thing I'm going to mention here, just to come into the last few moments, is if you like the coaching approach that we take, if you like the approach that we're putting forward, as well as please tell us or tell other people, maybe you feel that we can help you with a coaching approach in your organisation. If you want to know more, do please let me know. Let me see if we can help you. And finally, you'll see that we are an ILM centre. So if you want us to help you install coaching into your organisation, or to become a level 7 coach yourself, then again, please do ask. So I'm just going to check for any final questions, comments, observations, and if there are none, then I'll end the broadcast. And thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. Let me have a quick look. Okay, so I can't see other questions coming up. So thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope you found the webinar useful. Hope you found it helpful if you're either learning or reviewing, or even just seeing some old ideas perhaps a new way. Thanks ever so much. Wish you the absolute best in your coaching journey, and I look forward to meeting you soon properly. Thanks very much.